Well, just behind me is the old bridge in Ilkley, and it's the start of the Dales Way, a walk that I'm about to undertake, covering 84 miles all the way up to Lake Windermere in Cumbria. Let's get on our way. The weather's fine at the moment, forecast rain later on. Let's hope it's going to be dry for us. Well, weather update, we've only been going 5 minutes down the road, across the field through a couple of kissing gates, and it's raining. Just a light drizzle at the moment. They do forecast heavier rain as we go on, so hopefully I can find shelter as we go. But already out into the countryside, away from the bustling town of Ilkley. Well, we're now passing through a nice little overgrown area with nice trees right beside the river. Well, I've just walked through a nice open paddock next to the river, full of sheep and sheep poo, so be careful what you're standing. Yeah, we're actually walking beside the river wharf, and we're heading towards Grassington on our first leg of this journey. From Ilkley to Grassington is about 16 miles, so it's a fairly long leg for our first walk, but it's on the easiest part of the route. So hopefully I can make it on that first day, because the rest of the time should be easier. It's quite an interesting array of houses there. This is used to be a former old mill site. There's an old water pump and a Victorian postbox there. Well, this little church is St Peter's Church at Addingham. It's several notable features, particularly its oak roof, the Saxon cross, and some examples of the most trademarks of the famous Kilburn workshops, and lots of Victorian style graves. Slowly heading through Addingham. To the right of us is a little old suspension bridge, metal suspension bridge over the River Wharf. And the beautiful waters of the River Wharf. Right, just about squeezed through here with my rucksack. Ideal, lovely. And this is some of the lovely dry stone walls of Yorkshire Dales. This is the rear facing wall of the old Fairfield Friends meeting house, built by the Quakers in 1689. Fairfield is one of the earliest Quaker meeting houses and is still largely in its original form. It's not been in regular use since the 19th century. This is Bolton Bridge. Now, adjacent to this, where we just passed underneath, is a modern bridge built in around about 97. Well, just behind me are the ruins, very impressive ruins in fact, of Bolton Priory. It was built by the Canons who moved here to nearby Emsey, and it dates from around about 1154. And the rain's coming in all over my camera. I'm trying to get my camera dry, I don't want to get wet. It's got a long way to go yet. Now I came here in the summer a couple of years ago with my wife on a lovely holiday, lovely sunny day, and just down here are some stepping stones, and several people walked across them, and I think this gentleman's now do so. I'm going to take the carriageway out and go across the footbridge. Well, what do you call a massive group of ramblers? Well, could be a herd of ramblers, but I heard them coming. There's about 20 of them just gone by me. No doubt I'll come across them and several others as we progress along the Dales Way. And yet another stone-filled, fallen down tree. I think these trees are absolutely stacked with pennies or something like that, really stamped into them. I don't know the reason behind it, but I can imagine these trees are worth a bit of money. Yep, absolutely covered in them. A bit like a prehistoric animal skin, really. There's a pound coin in there. Well, it's raining a fair bit now. A little bit heavier than what it was earlier. The herd of ramblers that went by earlier, they must be on a march because they're really going right fast. Which puts me to shame, because they're all a lot older than me, mostly old age pensioners, and they're marching along really, really fast. Well, time for lunch. It's 12:25 and we're getting well on our way. And looking at my lunchbox, I was very lucky that the landlord and landlady at the Archway Cottage made me a packed dinner. Got a nice bottle of spring water, cheese and a ham sandwich, packet of crisps, and an apple, and a nice cake as well. Fantastic. So it's well worth thinking about when you're coming on a walk is the food, because the further you go along there's probably few and far between places to eat. One thing I forgot to say when I started my walk is I've got one of these little pedometer things which tells you how many steps you do on the walk, and today so far I've done 1,889 steps, which is far more than the average for a day, which they recommend about 10,000 a day. So we'll look at it again when I finish my first day, which is 16 miles, and obviously a little bit more I imagine, and see what it'll come out to. Now on this style, I've also got a dog gate. And the only other time I've seen that is on my own area of Somerset, down on Exmoor. A very good idea. Well, we now come out into the open again. We have now left Strid Wood, and we're still fairly high above the river, but fairly soon I think we'll be down beside the river again, and we're heading for Barden Bridge. Well, that lovely old structure is in fact known as the aqueduct. Barden Bridge is a bit further along, but we're still on the right hand side of the river. I think probably I should have gone on the left hand side, a bit further back, where the all the people are and all the cars, but I decided to walk through Strid Wood instead on the right hand side of the river. So you can go either side, whichever way you choose. Well, we just passed Barden Bridge and followed a little piece of roadwork. We're now heading back along the Dales Way on the eastern side of the river. Now on this walk, because I'm doing it as a long distance walk over several days, staying overnight in bed and breakfast accommodation, I've decided to film this without my tripod. And normally I carry quite a heavy tripod on my walks, but I decided to leave it at home this time, because I've already got a backpack full of all my clothes for changing, lots of other things in the backpack like battery chargers, film for my camera and all that sort of things. So it's a fair bit of weight to carry anyway without the tripod. So that's the reason why you'll see a little bit shaky film on the odd occasion. Hopefully not too much. Well, I've just come through some heavy rain showers, all out in the open, back under the trees now, close by to the river again, which is why I'm starting to film again. So it's going to be a bit of a hazard with water in the camera, so I won't film in the rain, I'm afraid. So maybe a big jump from one place to the next. But so far we've got a lovely riverside walk, and we've got things like this, a lovely little narrow gateway for a wall. Tiny little gate, just about squeezed through it. Fantastic little features around here. You know, things you find like that, like the dog style earlier on. Absolutely fantastic. Well, just past the sign, which gives me some indication of how far I've got to go before I reach Grassington. Now, Apple Tree Wick is about a mile away. Burnstall is 2 miles away. So at my calculation, I've got about 4.5 miles before I reach Grassington. So I should get there before dark. It's a bit wet. Well, we're now heading towards Burnstall, so not too far away from our destination at Grassington. And it's pouring down the rain still. That's the bridge at Burnstall. A very wet afternoon. It's now 3:15 in the afternoon and we're doing quite well. We've got to go down to Grassington. It's probably about another 2 miles, I think. Well, I've come to Burnstall now, over the bridge, and we just double back over the bridge, right beside the Red Lion Inn, and we're on the opposite side of the river now. And we're now heading towards the suspension bridge at Hebden. It's very, very wet, so I won't do a lot of filming here at Burnstall, unfortunately, but it's a little village with tea rooms, so nice stopping place if you get a chance. now reached the Hebden suspension bridge. We're now crossing back over the river, and then we're on our way back to Grassington, or not back to Grassington, but on the way to Grassington, and our final destination for the day. And a nice warm room, I hope, and a cup of tea. Well, I've reached my destination of Grassington. I'm now in the Grassington House Hotel after a very, very wet day. Most of the afternoon was wet. I've just put the radiator on. I'm dying for a shower. I can dry off my clothes. I'm going to have an evening meal tonight, and it's a lovely hotel. I'm right at the very top. Welcome to day 2 of my walk along the Dales Way. Today is a change of scenery. But yesterday we were walking along the river wharf in the rain as well. Today I'm walking across the limestone downs, heading towards Kettlewell, and eventually the destination today is Buckden, a distance of around about 13.5 miles. Well, I'm pleased to say, despite a quick shower we had a minute ago, the sun's shining today. Whether that's going to last for long, I don't really know. I hope it's not going to be heavy rain like yesterday, which stopped me filming the walk really. I managed to get some done, but I'm enjoying myself even in the rain. I'm now walking over an area called Lee Green. It's got good vast scientific interest because it used to be a prehistoric field system here. All these little pastures once farmed by prehistoric man. That's a strange island outcrop sticking out of nowhere in the middle of the field. Reminds me of the prehistoric times, the old film The Lost World. Obviously not high enough for trees on the top for monsters to be there. This wall style is in love and memory of Ray Parrish, 1932 to 2002, man of warmth and humour. And here we have another quite interesting wall style to walk across. These slabs set in the wall. Always a bit dubious about the top one, whether it's going to tip over. Anyway, that's okay. Brilliant. Well, I've come inside this little structure. This is actually a 19th century lime kiln. Now, coal and lime were placed on the top of it, and when it was burnt, the lime produced was then spread on the fields to reduce acidity. And there are hundreds more like this, all in this area, and a lot I know all over the country. And at the moment in here, it smells very like sheep pee, so I'm going to crawl out again. Very, very windy. Well, this is really something standing up here. That wind is very, very strong. Lucky I don't have far to get blown over. You can just see the river down below, and later on when we get to Kettlewell, about 3 miles further along, we'll be back down towards the river. Oh, I really enjoyed that. I've come out of the wind slightly down the side of the Coniston Pie, but magnificent views over to Lytton Dale and all sorts of areas like that. Absolutely fantastic. Wind's a bit strong, it's a bit worrying they're getting blown over. But if you come here, make sure you stand on this nice little tower. Ideal. Well, up now, finished walking on the top of the hills, and there's a stile in front, and we're heading down towards the valley now, towards the river wharf again, heading on towards Kettlewell. Well, after walking up on the hills, it's coming a bit hard on my legs now, walking downhill. It's quite steep. I'm down in the valley now, just past Scarfield House. I'm walking down a tarmac lane. And all around are lovely pastures with lots of dry stone walls for as far as the eye can see, right through this lovely lush valley. Throughout this walk, and you can probably still hear it, quite a few noisy birds. They're all the same type. Now, forgive me for one moment, I'm not all that clued up on what they are. Possibly stone curlews, because they got a curved beak. But I don't know. Anyway, I'm on a nice field section now, going through several little pastures, walled pastures, over stiles for about 5/8 of a mile, according to the footpath sign, heading in towards Kettlewell. Well, before we reach Kettlewell, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. I'm going to read from my little book, if you don't mind. Now, Kettlewell is the hub of the Upper Dale. It's a junction of roads and natural halting place. It stands on what was a major coaching route north to Richmond, and the two inns at the entrance of the village would have serviced the weary travellers. Sounds a good idea. The route in question is now a surfaced road, but still provides a tortuous way over to Coverdale. Shops, tea rooms and a third pub and plentiful accommodation, including a youth hostel, add more life to a village being steadily engulfed by holiday homes. Kettlewell straddles its own beck, which largely drains the slope of Great Whernside, very much Kettlewell's mountain. These slopes bear the scars of lead mining, an industry now replaced by tourism as a partner to farming. Some delectable cottages and gardens line the beck as it races through the village. Now, that information is from my little Dales Way guide by Paul Hammond, which I've been following my route from. Excellent buy if you get a chance to see it in the shops. We're back down right near the river wharf, and that was the little bridge leading into Kettlewell. It's quite a small village, 1 or 2 tea rooms, very nice pub. We've got a pub lunch, which is where I've just been, called the King's Head, well worth a visit. And of course an ice cream shop is what I buy ice cream or a tea room, whatever, well worth a visit. Now we're on the other side of the river, and we're now going to walk along to Buckden. Well, as you can tell, there's another rain shower coming over, quite heavy. I'm just taking shelter under a tree at the moment. Try to keep the camera dry. As this is supposed to be a kind of a video diary of my walk, it's showing that through all the different types of weather. My legs are holding up quite well at the moment, and so are my walking boots. But I'm still happy in the wet, as long as it doesn't last too long. We're just passing along through Upper Wharfdale, close to the River Wharf. You notice all these little tiny farmsteads. We've got cows and sheep. It's absolutely wonderful. It gives a nice feeling just seeing these little old farm buildings and the small paddocks with the sheep and the cows in. This is the footbridge that leads to the little village of Starbotton. Well, as you know, I've got a pedometer with me, which I'm taking along on my walk to see how many steps I do each day. And so far today, I've done 15,650 steps, which is quite good. Keep you fit. As is a video diary I'm doing, this is actually my first long distance walk that I'm undertaking in one go, stopping overnight, bed and breakfast, evening meals. So far I'm bearing up. I've got a few red marks where my straps have been on my shoulders so far. They sort of dig into you a bit, because I've got all my change of clothes and I've got shoes on the back and the white bag. Got camera stuff, chargers and batteries and film and all that sort of things, which is more than most people would carry, I suppose, so I've got a little bit of a weight there. But it's quite a challenge for me. I'm quite enjoying it so far. My legs are holding up, although when I woke up this morning I was very stiff on my legs. My feet ache a little bit, but I've got a good old pair of walking boots and they keep me going. So let's progress now on to Buckden. Well, I've actually now reached my destination for the day of Buckden. Buckden itself is a small village with most of the houses situated high on a hill above the river, possibly for flooding areas, I suppose. Buckden itself is the centre of what used to be a hunting forest back in medieval times. And apparently there's a buck inn there which shows all the importance of that. But for now, I'm going to go into Buckden for my overnight stay. Tomorrow we'll be heading back over here along the Dales Way towards COWGIL, a very long track tomorrow. Well, hello and welcome to the third day on my Dales Way journey. Today I'm starting here at the beautiful little village of Buckden, where I had a fantastic stay at the Romany cottage. The food was absolutely delicious, the hosts were excellent, highly recommended. Now today I'm going to walk along the River Wharf and head over the hills towards COWGIL. I believe it's a fairly long distance of about 18 miles. So we've got a long day ahead, so let's get on our way. been told on good authority that the weather is to improve today. Hopefully a nice bit of sun like we're now getting across the hills, because I think I'm going to be quite exposed further up. On the walk yesterday on the hills, I kept hearing all these birds making lots of noise. Now, I originally said there might be stone curlew or something like that. Now, someone told me that they could be oyster catchers. I don't think there's many oysters on the moor, but I know there are lapwings around, which I haven't really heard as yet. You normally hear the sort of the peewit sound when you hear the lapwing. But they were fascinating birds, whatever they were. Oh, fantastic to see the sheepdogs in action on the hill there. Now this area has got lots of lovely pasture land, so I imagine the farmers down here do very well. Now I know further up on the moor, the grass is going to be more stubbly and not very nice, so I think the farms are more few and far between, and I imagine the farmers have a bit more of a struggle to make a proper living up there. Well, the sun's come out, I've managed to get my coat off, and that little bird near the river there, I do believe might be an oyster catcher. Got his orange bill. And I think there were stone curlews on the moor, as well as oyster catchers, because they had the different style beaks. Well, believe it or not, this is a George Inn, which is formerly a vicarage. Well, this is a lovely church at Home. Apparently it could be one of the loveliest churches in the Dales. And the pews carry the small mouse carvings of Robert Thompson. Unfortunately the church is locked. Well, I have one of these nice little narrow gateways again in the wall to go through. Very nice. I was given on good authority from the last landlord and lady at the Romany cottage. Most of the style work is done now through the various styles. We've just got a few gates now along this bit, and then we're on open moorland. Well, I'm now walking through a nice little shady area very close to the river. The horseflies are biting like anything. I've been bit several times on my arms. The sun is very, very hot already in the morning. It's only 25 to 11. But it's a beautiful day. Well, I'm now approaching the tiny farmyard hamlet of Yorkshire. Just a cluster of a few small houses and farm buildings and the odd barn. Oh, can't beat a good old scratch. There's a stone circle. It could be ancient, back to Stone Age time, it could be modern, it could have been planted there by anybody. It seems a strange place to have a stone circle, to be prehistoric really, in my opinion anyway. But I could be wrong, you never know. But it's an interesting sight to see. Well, I'm about to cross over a little footbridge and onto a piece of roadway where we're heading away from the river, and we're also leaving Langstroth Dale, the area, behind, and we're now going to head over towards the moorland. Just climbed a very steep hill, found a bit of a job because I had a very filling breakfast this morning, and the kind people at Romney Cottage give me a packed lunch to top my bag, and it's quite a lot and it's quite heavy. So I think I've reached the top at the moment. Could do have a drink now. Well, this is a small drinking trough. Whether it's for human or animal, I don't know, but it probably tastes alright, but I don't think I'm going to try it myself. Well, that's a little Celtic cross is erected for Victoria's Jubilee, and this is where we turn off to the left of that to head on our moorland walk. Well, earlier on I pointed out about the... Yeah, how do you do? Have a little comment. Anyway, further down the river where I just come from, pointing out about the lush grass and how the farmers probably made more living than what they do up here on the moorland. And as you see around here, you've got this sort of rough old marsh grass which these sheep have got to eat, very coarse and spiky. Well, I left a nice little farm lane, now heading over the rough pasture land. Had to make my way through some sheep that have been sheared. I'm now going to try and find the track through the rough pasture land and moorland. Well, it's quite rough going on the moor. Quite boggy in places, as you just saw there in a muddy pit. It's quite open, and I was just thinking to myself, I haven't seen any other walkers on this route at all today, and all of a sudden two appeared from nowhere. So I don't know where they come from or where they're heading to. They didn't want to say much, but never mind, you do get that sometimes. Well, known an area I suppose you could call the watershed. This is where the various springs come out of the ground and go off in the different directions for the rivers. Now the rivers from here would have gone east, which is where we came from originally. Now they're going to head west towards the Irish Sea, just like me. But also up here somewhere is where our lovely river, the River Wharfe that I've been following all the way, actually comes from. This is the source of the River Wharfe, somewhere up here in the hills. Could be this river right in the stream in front of me. I don't really know. But goodbye, little River Wharfe. This little settlement is known as Cam Houses, and you have to take a little detour between the houses and down through the farm. Well, I've actually made it to the high road known as the Cam High Road. It's also where the Dales Way meets the Pennine Way for a short distance. Now, this road was built by the Romans during the 1st century AD as a military road, so they can keep an eye on all the local tribes. It was later used as a drove road and a pack horse route. Nowadays we get lots of 4-wheel drive vehicles up here, which, looking at the track, they're doing more damage to that now than what has been done in sort of 2,000 years, unfortunately. Also, though it's just a footpath, they have no legal right to come up here in 4-wheel drive vehicles. It's not even a bridle way, although it was a pack horse route at one time. Now, from this vantage point here, you can see all the 3 peaks on a lovely clear day. Now I can see Ingleborough, which is behind you, Whernside, and also Penwy Ghent. Which one's which I aren't sure, but I know where Ingleborough is because it's got a lovely flat top. Absolutely fantastic views. And further down in the valley I can see where I've came up through today. Beautiful valley, very, very boggy in the moorland area. I've still got a little way to go yet towards Dent Viaduct. Hopefully you might see a train go over the top. I'll stop for a little break anyway. Well, this is on the Pennine Way, and look at the damage the 4-wheel vehicles are doing. Well, this is where we leave the Pennine Way and head straight down on our Dales Way again, heading towards Denthead Viaduct, well into the distance there. There's a slight mist over there today, so you can't see it so well. And then we've got to go a little bit further on to COWGIL. Well, this beautiful little spot, this little river, is known as Gale Beck. I don't know if there's a river Gale, possibly. Nice little breeze coming across here, which is ideal after walking down the hills. I've been eaten by little tiny black flies when I sat down on the top of the Pennine Way walk. Coming down here back into the valley, it's really nice again. Well, I've just left an area called Gearstones, which used to be the old turnpike road, and now heading up towards Winshaw House and the Denthead Viaduct, which we saw earlier on in the distance. And the further we go along, the further it seems to go away. Incidentally, this piece of route I'm now on is also part of the Ribble Way, which is another long distance trail in this area. Well, this is the Denthead Viaduct, which we saw earlier on, way over on the hills. It seemed a lifetime to get back to it, to get close to it. Well, it's a lovely little packhorse bridge underneath the Dent Head Viaduct. It's really nice that they left it there and not destroyed it when they built the big viaduct in. It's a very picturesque little thing. Well, one weary traveller reporting on the video diary. I'm almost at the end of this walk. It's coming for 6:15 at the moment, and I'm in COWGIL, and I think where I'm lodging is just up the road at Riverview, next to Lee Yate Bridge, I can remember. So hopefully it's not too far away. It'd be nice to have a nice cup of tea. Nearly there anyway.